presentation of the Worldwide Lilo Network. It gets no better than this. Getting ready for another intimate conversation, inspiring reflection with a legend in the making, a super mom, actor, director, producer, and ordained minister. Yes, it's about to get real up in this piece. Presentation of the Worldwide Lilo Network, broadcasting from the KJBU 99.3 FM, rhythmofthecoast.com studios. Without further ado, if you're wondering who I may have been referencing, the mystery is over. Representing Brooklyn, New York to the fullest. Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? She is Essence Atkins. What's up, Queen?
Hi.
So you woke up like that? Is that what we're doing? No,
I definitely did not wake up like this. But actually, it didn't take long to get here. I'm happy to say and share that at 49 years old, this is definitely a made up face, but there's no foundation. So I'm not wearing any foundation. This is just my skin.
Because all of those specifics with whether or not you're wearing foundation and all of that, you preface with your age, then you go into foundation or no. I'm sorry, for some of us, foundation could not help. It just couldn't make up the difference for all of that.
Thank you.
It's all right that you woke up like that. That's cool. That's what we. So for those who believe, because everyone has to do their own thing regarding their particular faiths.
Yes.
For the believers in quotations, because we know that you woke up like that. We would like to thank the Lord and everyone on the usher board, all the ushers, everybody that's serving on the various committees.
Hilarious.
We say thank you. We say
thank you, Lord.
We say thank you. You know, praise. So
definitely.
So how are you? The generic how are you, but it is sincerely felt, man. So how are you doing?
No, for sure. I'm really great. I'm great. It's been a journey, right, to get to today for all of us, particularly with the last year. I mean, I remember calling my ex-husband on March 12th of 2020 and saying to him, I don't think I'm sending Varo to school tomorrow. I don't feel good about what's happening in the virus. I want to kind of wait and see what's happening. And unbeknownst to me, his school was going to voluntarily shut down the following week. And then we went into lockdowns and all kids started doing virtual learning. But I was a little ahead of the curve in terms of keeping my son at home. But obviously I didn't know at that time how long we would be here.
It's somewhat surreal to think that we're a year into what has been referred to as the COVID-19 era, to put it diplomatically. But really, in parentheses, I think the COVID-19 era is also in parentheses. How did you pivot? ? Like that. Like that's the across the board, everybody really finding a way to pivot as it relates to family, work, school, etc.
Right.
When you mention your son, little big man, who is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, Varo.
Mr. Varo, we see you, sir. Keep up the great work with
He
school.
may actually make an appearance just because, everybody's doing this from home. And I've told him I'm here, but I don't know how respectful he'll be of the boundary I've put up.
There are no boundaries here. Mr. Varo, you are welcome at any time to pop in whenever you feel like it, sir. Don't let mom keep you away. Is that him? Is that who I'm hearing in the background?
Yes, he has a play date right now.
Oh, cool. Man, I want to be like him when I grow up.
Yeah. Can you, Mackenzie, sweetheart, can you close the door for me all the way?
Hey, Mackenzie.
Thank you. Yeah.
Man,
thank you.
Can't do nothing. Well, I hope they're having a ball, man.
They are.
Miss Mackenzie and little big man Varro. I love it, man. You gotta have play dates, man. When you were mentioning your son, speaking of pivoting during this COVID-19 era, I think listeners and viewers around the world would really appreciate knowing what you and 7 families in your village, what you created for an alternative educational environment there using the guest house at your home, man.
Yeah. So my son's school, my son had been going to the same school, Monarch Christian School in California. And he'd been attending this school since preschool, since he was 2.5, since he was potty trained. And it was a very small little Christian school. And he'd been with some of those kids up since then, since he was 2.5, 3 years old. And on July 2nd of 2020, I woke up to an email saying that the school, because of resources and financing and just everything that had happened in terms of tumultuous of the markets and all of that they had to shut their doors permanently. So we had all been assuming that we would possibly continue learning virtually as they had the rest of the spring of last year. And what ended up happening was they closed their doors, and it was completely unexpected. I hadn't been anticipating, none of us as parents had been anticipating that was going to be what happened in the midst of the pandemic. And so I read the email. I shot up in my bed because I read it when I was in bed, and I was like, okay, I immediately started Googling nearby schools in the area. But being that it was July 2nd, a lot of the deadlines for admission and registration for a lot of the private schools in the area had been closed. And the ones that were still open, everybody was trying to reduce class sizes, believing that they would be able to open in the fall, but still socially distanced in California. So everyone was really trying to make the class size smaller and their student body smaller. So I was already kind of anxious about that. And then realizing that school was supposed to start mid-August, and here it was beginning of July. So I started Googling schools, and I found one that was nearby that was a similar kind of curriculum and just a perspective that he had been already exposed to with a Christian background education. And I started reading their potential protocols for the fall in terms of mask wearing and distancing, and we wouldn't be able to walk the kids into the classroom, and we as parents wouldn't be able to drop them off. They'd have to be able to get out of the car and go in themselves. And there were all these protocols that I was reading, reading and consuming, and I just was overwhelmed with anxiety and overwhelmed with frustration. My son had already, in my opinion, as so many children, had endured such a challenging, even though he was still doing well in school, it was challenging being so isolated. He is an only child. He wasn't able to be with his friends. And so this to me was just a heartbreak that I was going to have to impart on him, that I was going to have to tell him about, that I was just really dreading. And in the silence of my bedroom, I heard, as I am a believer, so I heard the Spirit download to me, empty your guest house. And I was like, wait, what now? What? Huh? I was like, you want me to do what, Lord? Empty my what? And I have a guest house on my home, a separate structure, and I had just finished decorating it. I mean, like, set the table, the chair, like, got the internet connected, like it was perfect, and awaiting for a guest. Of course, it's the middle of a global pandemic. Ain't nobody coming. No, I don't have any guests, but in my mind, it's like the perfect, there's a full kitchen, there's a full bathroom with a tub. It's a perfect spot for my mom to come, and she can stay with me, but not really stay with me. Like, it was just, in my mind, I'm like, this is great. And it was clear as day, empty your guest house. And so I called my son's best friend's mom, And I said, did you read the email? And she was like, I just read it. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And she just went on this long journey about trying to keep our boys together because they were best friends and had known each other since they were 3. And she's a pediatric nurse for Kaiser. And she was like, maybe I can take less time. And I'm not a teacher, but maybe I just want to keep the boys together. And I said, hold on. Let me tell you what the Holy Spirit just told me. And I told her, and she was like, oh, would you do that? And literally, I want to say a few hours later that afternoon, it was her and 2 other parents in my living room, and we were talking about starting our own school. So we did. We ended up hiring one of the teachers who suddenly found themselves out of work from Monarch. And Mrs. Parmalee, Missy Parmalee, she has 20 years of educational experience. She's taught every grade of elementary school. And so it's my son and 8 other 3rd graders that are in the guest house. They've been there since the beginning of August, and they love it, and they come 5 days a week. And we, as the parents, we contribute equally financially to her salary, but we also pay for like the little incidentals, i.e. gas and electric, i.e. Water, because they don't have a water fountain like they had at school. So we have a water, we order sparklets and they deliver water. And so they have a water dispenser in the classroom. We pay for paper towels and toilet paper and all that kind of stuff collectively as a group. And then every day from 12 to 1, when Mrs. Parmalee has her lunch break, one of us as parents, we volunteer and we do recess. So not only are the kids together, but the parents are active in terms of participation, and the kids get to know us as parents, and we have our own individual relationships with them. And Mrs. Parmalee gets an hour lunch break, and it's working out really beautifully. It's working out really well. And we just talked about it last week. We're going to keep going. Even though schools are going back, we want to keep the kids together. They love it so much. So we've all committed to another 2 years. So we're going to let them finish out elementary together. So it'll be 4th grade and 5th grade. We've just committed. So yeah. And Mrs. Parmalee loves it. She says it's her favorite job ever. So I'm super grateful. And one of our parents is a former Navy officer, and he comes twice a week and teaches gym. He teaches PE. So it's really amazing.
That is so dope. That is the craziest, most inspiring, uplifting example of 21st century education. And it's not so much that we are pretending as though, well, it's new for, certain neighborhoods and certain families to take into their own hands how they educate their children. Right. But when we add the component of the pandemic to it, right, needless to say, things could have gone in any number of directions. So the fact that you all were able to galvanize and not only pivot and make this alternative work, but it is working to the extent that this is going to be the norm for finishing their elementary school years. Yeah. So kudos to the super village.
Yeah. So the Holy Spirit gave me the name. So we call ourselves the Risen Village, and we spell it instead of this traditional spelling of risen, R-I-S-E-N, we call it the R-I-S-O-N, as in the Son of God who rose. So the Risen Village. And that's the name of our little school. Okay. So you just started something, right? You know that there is a template that is expected by not just people around the U.S., but around the world. There are some families, some parents, some aunts and uncles who they just heard what you said, and they actually want to have their own version of the Risen Village. And I think that's another aspect of this that is beautiful and, if you will, divine, to your point. It is that as you all crafted this, and through your willingness to extend your home in this way, your children benefit. The children who are classmates of little big man Varro benefit. That speaks for itself. But there was always a bigger picture at play as you were giving birth to
what the spirit, if you will, was guiding you to do, there were people in other parts of the world who were waiting for something like this to emerge, just to hear that this is how you did it. This was the inspiration for it. And I think that that's profoundly informative, because you went from having the message to acting upon it to this movement taking on a life of its own. And it is now a model by which others can actually duplicate it or put the remix on it, do their own version.
Yeah.
You know, and so now, because of what you're sharing, there are those who, every time they see you from this point forward on any of your television projects, movies, etc., they will also think of this.
They'll be like Varl and call me Principal Mommy.
To say the least. To say the least. That's right. That's right. Principal Mommy. You know, we'd be remiss if we didn't go back to your shorty days. As we acknowledge what's happening with little big man Varro's shorty days. That, you know, everybody's childhood is unique in its own way. We all have a variety of experiences that are ours, if you will. And so, you know, in the same way that his elementary years are being defined at this point in his journey by this global pandemic that no one saw coming. As children, we don't ever see these things coming. We just see the adults around us respond, and we find ourselves doing what the adults tell us. When I think about your elementary school days, you being in New York, representing Brooklyn to the fullest.
Yes. PS 139 in the building.
Okay, see that now. There you see. You just there was a little bit of gangster the way you said PS before you got to the number. You know, you have always, you know, made clear that from a very early age in the city, man, you were kind of unique and were, you know, on the subways, like really early on. Would you say, when you think about ages 7 and 8, that, you know, as you're on the subways in New York, a bit of what would have been referred to in those days as a latchkey kid type of a vibe? Would that be fair to? How did that help to shape your hustle? Because you, at a very young age, had ownership over some of the moves that you were making at such an early age.
Yeah, my mom was a young mom. I mean, she was in her early 20s when I was born, and you know, she had a lot of trauma, and she had a lot of sadness, and she had coping mechanisms that didn't make her the most present parent. And her and my dad split up when I was just an infant. So though he was in my life, he wasn't part of the daily structure. And my dad, I had an older cousin who I saw at a dance recital, and I fell in love with ballet. I was just like, oh, I want to do that. And so my dad signed me up for class, and my mom, and he had a conversation with my mom, and they basically agreed that he would pay for it and she would take me. And she took me for the first weekend. And then the second weekend that she was supposed to take me, I went to wake her up at the last possible minute. She was still asleep, and she rolled over and she looked at me and she was like, I'll just take you next week. And she rolled back over and went to go back to sleep. And I just stood there at the side of her bed with my eyes full of water, because it meant so much to me to go. And she, you know, I mean, intentionally, I think I was, you know, I think I was doing that cry. And she rolled back over and she looked at me and she said, can you take yourself? And I said, yes, I can. Yes. And so from that Saturday on, I I walked to the D train. I got on Cortellia Road. I rode the train to 42nd Street, Times Square, and I went to ballet class. And, you know, I'm 49, so you got to think me at 7 years old, me at 6 years old. This is Times Square in 1979. This is pre-Eminem's Times Square. This is, you know, X-rated movie theaters. This is martial arts theaters. This is a lot of homeless. This is a lot of an element that was very sketchy at the time, a lot of people who were on drugs and stuff like that. And Saturday mornings, I was just determined. I was completely determined to go to my ballet class and to make the most of the fact that I had this scholarship and this opportunity. And I wanted to be a dancer. And so I wasn't going to let anything stop me. And that, I mean, to your point, when you talk about what did that birth in me, there was definitely a sense of innocence loss, but at the same time, what was birthed in that loss, what was gained in that loss, because I just don't believe that when something goes away that nothing is replaced. I believe that there's something that comes to replace and replenish and an opportunity to grow and blossom. And so when I had the opportunity to do that, I feel like it gave me so much discipline. It gave me so much grit and tenacity and determination, and it made me really self-sufficient. Again, for me, I will attribute to the hand of God was over me, because I was definitely walking around in a dangerous environment. Granted, it was Saturday morning. It was less nefarious because it was early Saturday morning and there were less of kind of the seedy elements, but still it was not the safest environment to send your very small child to alone. But the hand of God was over me and I was safe and I went. And that was the beginning of me just deciding that if there was something that I wanted to do, that I had to be prepared to have the discipline to make it happen and also to be able to execute it on my own. And it has served me well as an artist, which is also entrepreneurial. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I'm an actress, but there is definitely something about being an artist that forces you to have discipline and entrepreneurial skills, because you're not getting a steady paycheck. So you have to learn how to, as you put it earlier, hustle, and you have to learn how to cultivate and continue the opportunities, to continue to expand the opportunities that you're handed, to create and make them overflow and multiply.
Can you take yourself it's just amazing how that moment and you remembering word for word that question and your response to it in terms of your sense of spirit and grit and a willingness to go and make something happen, that when you heard those words, it was like, at that age, it was just going by your description, it was exactly what the doctor ordered. Because you, as I was watching you and you're sharing that instance, it's as if you were reliving it, so to speak, in those moments. And so when you shared what Mom's response was, you lit up as if you may as well right now have been
made the same decision. And I'd make the same decision. But what's funny is that, you know, Varro has a very different childhood. You know, I mean, he's never done anything like that. He's not equipped yet to do those things on his own. I mean, praise God, he still believes in Santa Claus. I think I'm going to try and make it to 10. And, you know, the Tooth Fairy. So he has a very kind of sheltered childhood, and he isn't nearly as exposed to all of the kind of adult themes and the awareness. He doesn't have the awareness. He is very much my child in the sense that he's very bright and he's very articulate and sensitive. We have very similar personalities, but when it comes to his exposure, he has a much more Norman Rockwell childhood than I ever had. And that's intentional for both his dad and I. We've been, even though we're divorced, we have been very intentional about preserving his innocence for as long as possible, knowing that, we will prepare him for the things of this world and for the dangers of this world and the potential problems of this world, but just wanting him to relish in his innocence because he has the rest of his life to be an adult. So he knows nothing about any of these kind of characters. When I was his age, I was very much aware about like kidnappers and like I had the wherewithal. I wasn't, my head was on a swivel. I mean, I remember that first subway ride when I was sitting there, I got on at Coachella Road and I remember looking at I sat myself right in front of the subway map and I was watching the D train to make sure that all the stops were exactly where we were going, just in case. Like in my child mind, I was like, I just need to make sure that somehow we don't take another route. Now we're on train tracks, we're not going to take another route, but at the same time, like I remember just kind of checking every stop. Oh, okay, we're at Prospect Park. Oh, okay, we're at DeKalb Avenue, and just like making sure that we were going in the right direction to get me to where I needed to go. So there was an anxiety when I first attempted, but there was also like the determination and the desire to pursue the arts definitely overrode whatever else was happening. And I have found that to be true in my career at pivotal moments. Like, it's not that I'm without fear. It's not that I'm absolved of anxiety or fear or even intimidation and can I do it? It's just that the desire is so much stronger that it makes me try.
It's inspiring stuff. She is Essence Atkins. This go-round for intimate conversations, inspiring reflections. If you're not inspired yet, we got a whole lot more coming, so we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you. And she's already started some stuff now, because the question is, can you take yourself? And we are learning that very, very early on, when that question was posed to her, that she answered yes, and by answering yes, we're on these airwaves in this very moment. So let that be instructive. But Sister Essence, with your blessing, we're gonna pause, put a hot joint on burn for a minute, play a little music.
Okay.
And then when we come back, we're going to another level.
Okay.
Is that cool?
That's perfect.
This is my another level face.
That's your another level face?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
To the next cat, it's like, why is he squinching his face up? But for you, it's to understand, oh, that's the another level face. All right. For all you English teachers out there, forgive me for butchering the grammar and all of that. Miss Parmalee, don't hold that against me, man. I'm gonna do
Miss
better.
Parmalee won't.
I'm gonna do better. She is Essence Atkins. You're locked in. It's 99.3 FM KJBU, inspiring you to be your best you. Broadcasting from the rhythmofthecoast.com studios. She is Essence Atkins, taking some precious time out for us, man, for an intimate conversation with some inspiring reflections, man. The key question in the last segment was, can you take yourself? And what we learned is, at a very young age, Sister Essence rose to the occasion for something that she was passionate about, and that led to some other interesting things in her childhood. Before we talk about some things that our audience around the world, in the early days of your career, all have in common, with you being an introduction to them by way of the small screen, television screens around the world, getting to see you for the first time and all of that stuff. During your shorty days, your interest in dance, your passion to become a professional dancer, as you're a student at the Alvin Ailey Institute, and while simultaneously studying dance at the Alvin Ailey Institute. You are at the Professional Children's School in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
For those who tend to have those questions, which are understandable, like, well, how does one do that? How do you do that? So let's break it down, if you will, and let's say first, Alvin Ailey Institute. What was that like? What's the abbreviated version of what you did to get in at an early age? And then next, what did you do to get into the Professional Children's School in New York City? Let's take those two.
Okay. Well, Alvin Ailey I had to do an audition process, but I was coming from, before I went to Ailey, I was at the Newbert Ballet Institute at Carnegie Hall. So I was already studying quite intensively a ballet program. And then I moved over to Ailey because I wanted a more diverse background. Like, I wanted to do more than just ballet. So Ailey offered training in both classical ballet, modern jazz, and also there was Horton, and there was also African dance. There was just a much more of a variety, right? They even had tap. And I definitely wanted to be a well-rounded dancer. So I moved over there and I auditioned, but it was more about just signing up for classes. And as I progressed, I had a natural innate ability, and Mr. Ailey took notice of me when I was quite young and kind of highlighted me as a potential to eventually go into his junior program and, kind of work my way up through the ranks. In the meanwhile, Professional Children's School, I didn't start going there until the 6th grade. So I was in elementary school, as I mentioned, PS 139 in Brooklyn, New York. I did that until 5th grade. And then Shorty decided that she wanted to be a part of a different type of environment. I was bullied. That's the truth. I was bullied in public school. I think children who have different kinds of extracurricular activities and an affinity towards things. And also, I was a kid who, by the time I was in 5th grade, like, I was in the city every week. Like, I was in Manhattan every week. And for some kids that I went to school with in Brooklyn, they had never even been to Manhattan. They'd never even been there. And it's just a train ride or a bus ride or even a walk. If you live in Brooklyn Heights, you can walk across the bridge. It's not that big of a deal. And so going to Manhattan, going to the center of culture, right? The center city really was mystifying to them. And so it made me different and it made me other. And because I was so familiar and culturally exposed, not just in dance, but like Carnegie Hall and Radio City Music and Broadway, like these were the places these were my haunts. This is where I would like walk around and hang out with friends and like, have coffee shops and all that kind of breakfast. And so that became something, often other becomes alien, becomes a threat. And because it wasn't a shared experience for all of us, I was bullied. And by the time I was in 5th grade, I just felt like I needed to be around kids who were more like me. And originally I had hoped to go to Performing Arts High School. And for those of you who don't know, like at that time, there was a movie called Fame, then there was a show called Fame, and Debbie Allen, like all of those things were like goals, right? If you want to talk hashtag goals, those were goals, like eventually going to Performing Arts High School and then being in the lunchroom and breaking out into a full-on dance routine was like my vision of my future. So that was the aspiration. But before I got there, in 5th grade, I just felt like I needed to be around kids that had a similar kind of sensibility that I had. And I was exposed to, in dance class, I was exposed to this private school called Professional Children's School. And what PCS was basically a private school that created a curriculum that allowed for students who had pursuits in the arts to be able to pursue those arts no matter what. So even if their schedule conflicted with a traditional school schedule, they weren't penalized, because in New York City public schools, no matter what your grades were, if you missed a certain amount of days of school, you were automatically held back. PCS was set up so that, like, one of my classmates throughout my education, her name was Midori Goto. And by the time Midori was 13 years old, she had 9 professional violin albums. She was world-renowned violinist. She was quite young and she was a protege. But because of that, she was always gone. She was always touring around the world. And so she missed quite a bit of school, but she was still a kid and she still needed an education. So PCS was designed to be able to accommodate children like that. And that's actually how I ended up on The Cosby Show, because that school would sometimes get calls from casting directors who were looking for actors. And though I wasn't an actor, I was a dancer. That was the focus of my pursuits. The Hughes Moss agency sent a notice to the school that they were looking for someone to be on The Cosby Show. And I fit the description on the note, and I ended up calling the number, scheduling an audition, learning on the spot how to audition. Barry Moss was very patient with me. And after 2 more attempts or auditions, I ended up being chosen by Mr. Cosby to be on The Cosby Show. And that was my very first professional audition. And that was my very first professional acting gig. But it wasn't at all what I thought I was going to do. My dream, my vision was to be Misty Copeland before Misty Copeland was. So, but those are how those things happened. And there's a lot of germations that if you look at, like, when I think back and I look retrospectively on my life and my career, like I see a lot of the things that kind of led to success in my now chosen career and long-term career. I see some of the habits that I had. I see the willingness that I had to kind of, because for me, being on The Cosby Show was, at the time, the idea of it, when I read that notice on the bulletin board, it was both intimidating and at the same time exhilarating. Like, the thought of it was super exciting, but I was also like, I don't know if I can do this. But I just wanted to try. Like, that was my mentality. I wanted to try. And it was if you remember, it's kind of a similar scenario to when I got on the subway for the first time to go to dance class. It was like, yes, it was scary, the idea of getting on the subway at such a young age. But at the same time, I didn't want to forfeit my dream and wait until the next Saturday when my mom may or may not be in the mood to take me to class. Like, I wanted the emancipation enough to try. And it was the same thing with acting. Like, I wanted to be on The Cosby Show enough to emancipate myself from the lack of experience, from the fact that I had no idea what I was doing, from the fact that, like, no, I didn't have an agent, I didn't have a manager, I had no professional resume whatsoever. But the idea of it was enough to motivate me to move past my insecurity and the fact that I could fail. That was a very real possibility. In fact, it was more likely that I would fail than it was that I would succeed. But I was willing to fall flat on my face. And that has served me well. In the 35 years that I've been now doing this thing, it has served me well. To being the willingness to fall flat on my face has definitely been beneficial, because I fall often.
Well, it's not possible, and I did research on this. It's not possible that you've been in the game, in the business of show for 35 years, because a part of the meticulous research and preparation for our time together, yes, is that, and everyone, please, for these few moments, just please overlook any comments from Miss Atkins. That the research that goes into this, that does not mean that I have effective subject-verb agreement skills or anything. That's not what I'm saying. What I want to emphasize is that in the research for this particular experience, I had the privilege of speaking to the sister of Benjamin Button, and and that's rare, because she does not allow such conversations to take place often. And what she confirmed for me, her name is Beatrice. I call her Sister B. And I told her that I would not really elaborate a lot about our conversation. But what Sister B did share with me is that it is not possible for Essence Atkins to have been in the game thus far 35 years and counting, because you are the source of her brother Benjamin's jealousy. That he is trying to figure out what it is you're drinking, what are you eating, what are you breathing, what type that he is really upset at how easy you're making this thing look. So, and that's courtesy of research from Sister B.
Right.
So the jury is still out on this claim that you're making
of this longevity.
Yes. I just want you to know that it's suspect, but we celebrate you nonetheless.
Thank you very much.
She is Essence Atkins, the one and only actress, producer, director, and ordained minister / supermom, also known as Principal Mama. That's right, on the Lilo Network. Intimate conversations, inspiring reflections, an exclusive broadcast, 99.3 FM KJBU, inspiring you to be your best you. At the age of 7 and 8, she had a philosophy that she developed and has held on to it all these years later, that if she could do it herself, she was going to do it. Not relying on anyone else to have control over whether or not she pursued her own passions. Again, we're connecting some dots here for those who aspire to not only do something in television or film or entertainment, but these are philosophies and principles that are valid in anyone's walk of life. So the reason why we refer to this experience as an intimate conversation with inspiring reflections is because it is inevitable whenever we pull back the layers of one's experiences that there are some keys to one's personal sense of gratification and achievement, and there are some steps that one can take and apply in one's own way. What are those steps? What are the moves that we can make? Well, through these types of conversations and exchanges, we get an opportunity to hear some things. We get an opportunity to think about what we hear. And then we get an opportunity to reflect on our own journeys. And maybe we can insert a little something here or there that is relative to what we all want to accomplish in our own ways. So it is because of giants like yourself that everyone has an opportunity to be a little closer to the light, see what's possible for themselves, and begin the process of answering the question for themselves. Can you take yourself? Can one take one's self? And every time we hear your voice, every time we learn a little bit more about your journey, we not only see that the answer is yes, but we're able to connect the dots as to why and how the answer continues to be for you yes. See, now you guys don't know this around the globe, but I just got hit with a little text from Sister B, and she said thank you. See, see, because for a moment there, you almost got me in some hot water.
Okay.
But I'm confirming for you that Sister Beatrice, a lot of people didn't even know Benjamin Button had a sister. So she just hit me with a thank you for not putting too much of her business out in the street, but just, keeping things in the proper context, man. So we'll check it. I'm thinking, in spite of the hazing that you have attempted to distribute thus far, we will play some music because that's what the vibe deserves.
Okay.
And
what's coming? What are we listening to?
See, ladies and gentlemen, the way that she attempted to ask that question, it came across as though she wasn't trying to bully one into getting her approval of what the music was going to be. But you see how skillful that was done, right? The tone of voice was very kind, and it was. We're on to you. We're on to Essence Atkins, man. The director, actress, producer, ordained minister, super mom. On the other side of this joint, hey, Sister Atkins, what we want to do is there's some people who are chomping at the bit to find out about this notion and this reality that you have been an ordained minister for a while now. Not many people are aware of this. Not many people realize the fact that on August 30th, 2014, that you officiated the nuptials of a couple that's fairly well known. Young lady by the name of Gabrielle Union and a brother by the name of Dwyane Wade. So you have been practicing this for a minute now, and you absolutely love it.
I do.
So how about we rap a little bit about that on the other side of this song?
Okay.
Sounds like a deal?
Sounds good.
Pinky promise?
Pinky promise.
My fingers are a little bigger than normal, y'all. But she said yes, we can pinky promise. All right, but you know what? I'm thinking, man, Keith Robinson. Since you go back a ways with our brother Keith Robinson, a phenomenal singer, songwriter, producer, musician, actor.
Yes, actor.
I think that this might be apropos.
Oh boy!
Since you guys did the film Open together,
yes,
the BET Plus experience Open, you can
and
check that out.
He was my boyfriend on Half and Half. He played Neil on Half and Half.
In those days,
that's when I first met you.
Well, listen. Everybody, just delete that last. Take that off the record. We will take that off. We will strike that from the record. In those days, Brother Keith Robinson, as an artist, for all of you true fans out there, this is a bit of trivia. He was known as Black Keith.
Yes, he was. That's right.
All of his music, scorching, has always been that way from day one. So let's do this. This is an original Keith Robinson joint. An instant classic, a little something he calls Love Somebody. Keith Robinson at his best on the Lilo Network. Intimate conversations, inspiring reflections on the other side of this Keith Robinson joint. More with the incomparable, the beautiful, she woke up like this, Essence Atkins. Whew, man, Keith. It just... there were some women who everything was cool with them, and Keith starts singing in that falsetto, and sisters have problems breathing. They don't have asthma, nothing. Normally they're fine. Yes. This brother shows up and just sucks all the oxygen out of the room. Our brother Keith, man, that Open project, on which you were also a producer, no?
A producer, yeah.
Very cool. Slightly scandalala, a little scandalous. The couple has been together for 10 years, and then there's a little 3-year window where you decide to have a quote open marriage.
Yeah.
And it's the woman's idea.
It was my character's idea, Ren's idea, yeah.
Yeah, see, because I know the moment I started talking about this, people...
There are times when I play characters that are close to me, and then there are times when I don't, and that is definitely not my ministry. I grew up an only child. That just doesn't work for me. So I don't like to share. So that would work. But I love the idea of the script when we did the movie, because I felt like there was so much to explore that would resonate. It wasn't really about resonating with people who were in open marriages. It was about resonating with the questions of monogamy and how do you make things work long term, and communication, and also just making decisions from trauma and from fear. because ultimately part of the reason that Ren suggests that they do this is because she is operating from a sense that it's an inevitable thing that her husband will eventually step out on her. So she feels like she's kind of getting ahead of it by suggesting this lifestyle.
That voice is Essence Atkins. You're back. This is an intimate conversation, inspiring reflections, and she was just justifying the wrong that her character wanted to engage in a so-called open relationship. What's really cool about that particular project is that when one sees the trailer and one gets like a brief synopsis of what it's about, right? You immediately are just drawn to think, okay, exactly how salacious might this be? You know, one's imagination just starts to take off a little bit, right? And what's so cool about the project is that for the subject matter to be what it is so tastefully presented. Like there's like,
yeah, no, I think people thought they were going to be witnessing some sort of soft porn, but potentially, you know, they're like, oh, I'm going to get ready to see the big sister on Smart Guy in a menage. No, that's not what's happening. It was, again, the reason I fell in love with the script that my producing partner and the director Cass presented. It was that I love that it's really about the relationship. It's really about love and, you know, trying to sustain a love and trying to keep it alive and keep it healthy, and what we will do or won't do and what works and what doesn't work. And one of the great things that happened is in the process of research before we actually shot any footage for the film, we met with a couple that had been in an open marriage. They'd been married 22 years and they had been in an open relationship for the half of their marriage for 11 years. And they had 2 daughters, and their oldest daughter knew about the status of their relationship. Their youngest daughter didn't. And we got to like ask questions and find out like how it works and what they do and how they manage the whole thing, and, you know, what comes up and what the fears are and what the rules are and what the protocols are. And they were both a Black couple, professional couple, in higher income positions, and they had a very nice life. And listening to them, I can tell you that I wasn't like, oh, this is a great idea for me. I was like, I know this wouldn't work for me because I know my sensibilities, but at the same time, to hear them talk about it and why it was working for them, it just gave me a lot of understanding and empathy of the lifestyle and why people do what they do, and also what the pitfalls are. And they were so excited that a story was being told that would resonate with their situation and their scenario, that didn't make a mockery of it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a magic trick, a juggling act to creatively pull that off and still make it relatable to audiences. Right. Who there are those who immediately just finding out what the subject matter is, I'm not going to watch this. But perhaps those are the very people who should check it out, because you do have to see how human and how relatable those, you know, the couple is. That you and Brother Keith Robinson are so relatable, and because of that, it then becomes something that's a little more realistic than maybe most people would like to admit. Yeah,
no, we didn't want to present it in a way where it was like, you know, 2 people with tremendous sexual perversion, like kind of doing this thing, like a very fetish movie. It was really, again, about love and why they make the decisions that they make. And, you know, I think he has this wonderful scene with the actor who plays his brother, and they're talking about like he's basically singing his wife's praises about how close they are, because they don't have any secrets, because he can be so candid with her, because he can be so honest that he can communicate with her in a way that most men don't feel they can with their wives, with their spouses, with their significant others. And he was just elated at the idea. He felt like it brought them closer because they had this understanding between them that didn't there wasn't this whole jealous factor between them, so he thought. But it's what part of the reason that I wanted to make the film is I thought it was really well written, but also the other reason is that I wanted to provoke. I wanted it to be provocative in its nature of conversation. I wanted people to see it and for it to spark conversations amongst couples about like, hey, where are we? Hey, what do you think of this? Hey, what are the boundaries that we have yet to articulate? Because I think that in couples and relationships, there are so many things that we just assume about our partners that we don't necessarily discuss. And so I thought that this was a great way, and this was a really beautiful way of kind of delving deeper into communicating with your partner about what your expectations are and what it is you need, and just to check in.
I think this is also something that should not be understated. Gentlemen, we're all on the same team in these moments. If you hear Miss Atkins disagree or grunt her disapproval of the following statement, it's okay. It's okay. We're on the same team.
Oh boy, I'm so glad you said that. Now I can steel myself.
That brothers do not cheat. That brothers are united as a team, and this film reinforces how strong we are and how strong we can be, that brothers do not have a history that is questionable in this arena.
In terms of monogamy? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I think we should move on to whatever it is you want to talk about next, so that you and I don't fight.
Okay. See, once again, this was not there was not a question in there. That was just a statement. That's why it's TV, y'all. That's why it's film. That's why, this is merely entertainment. Hey, Sister Essence, and some.
Listen, these earrings, they just come off real quick.
Where Brooklyn at? Still representing PS 139.
Yes.
Check it. No, I appreciate you being a great sport about that. The film Open, still available now. Amazon Prime, BET Plus. For a lot of folks, they're backtracking, checking it out. Just a really, really, I would say, skillfully executed project with a subject matter that is just on the surface, again, challenging. And then when one experiences it, you go, wow, okay, like not only was that cool, but I'm going to turn some other people on to check it out because it's one of those hidden gems.
Yeah, so, you want to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, man. So kudos to you. And one of the other reasons, in full disclosure for our beautiful viewers around the globe, about this time last year, Sister Essence was supposed to do this particular show last year, and the pandemic kicked off.
Yeah.
And you were going to have a private screening, or at least we're thinking about it.
Open. I was, yeah.
And so the film Open represents an interesting time capsule, if you will, in terms of films that were released last year and are now experiencing a bit of a resurgence of a life of their own.
Because they didn't have the proper launching.
Yeah, man. So thank you for putting up with me. There's a method to the madness, so make sure everybody around the globe that you get your hands and eyes and ears on Open, starring Keith Robinson, Essence Atkins, the dynamic duo. A follow-up, because they're grown folks now. You can watch them on Netflix.
Jasmine Guy also plays my mother in the film.
Gosh, she is.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's
amazing.
She is so awesome and underrated in my estimation, because she is a thespian, man. So I'm so glad to see, because she killed her role playing your mother. I mean, she smokes it. So
and for everyone, I just have to address this, because a lot of people were like, Jasmine Guy is not that much older than Essence Atkins. Why is she the mother? La 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 la. I just want to say Lawrence Fishburne is 8 years older than Anthony Anderson. So just so you know, this happens all the time.
Oh God.
Lawrence Fishburne is 8 years older than Anthony Anderson in real life. They could never be son and father, but in casting and TV, we do that. It's really very common, because a lot of people were like, I don't understand why Jasmine's not that old. Essence ain't that young. And I'm like, you're right, but this is what we do. It's called play. We play for a living. It's not reality, guys.
Yeah. Public service announcement. If it's television, if it's film, if it's real. Stage, it's make believe.
Yeah.
Jasmine Guy did her thing. The two of you, the chemistry is awesome. A mother and daughter that is beyond believable. So, high praise and a salute to the both of you, man. So as we transition from the Open project being available now, it's a cool segue to reminding everybody that the relationship between you and Brother Keith Robinson, as you mentioned,
goes back.
Basically, it's half and half is Headquarters Central. So we're talking to, if we just wanted to be really nerdy about it, 2005, when he showcased on Half and Half, and the rebirth of Half and Half, originally broadcasting on the UPN network, now available on Netflix. And there are those who can't get enough of it, and they're watching all 4 seasons over and over again.
And they're mad about it. I get all these tweets and texts. What happened? Who did Mona choose? Did Brett and Yvette end up together? And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. We got canceled.
It's so cool to have projects like that take on a new life.
Yeah.
Because for the loyal fans who experienced it during the days of the original airings, this is now, this generation's I Love Lucy, Gilligan, Leave It to Beaver, the Brady Bunch.
It's really nice. I have, like you mentioned, that show on Netflix, and then Smart Guy is on Disney Plus. When Disney Plus launched last summer, Smart Guy had another resurgence, and that was really amazing. I have a show that I did for the OWN network that's now streaming on Stars called Ambition. So, you can basically see me on television on 3 different channels every single day. Which just makes me want to pinch myself. I'm like, God, you're amazing. I can't even believe that that's true, that I have been. And then of course there's Are We There Yet, which I think is also syndicated a few places. So it's just it's hard to believe that over the course of, these years, I have so many bodies of work that are still being appreciated and finding a new audience, a new generation of viewers. And then, of course, the people who grew up watching them were rewatching them and loving them all over again with a more mature. I know for me, when I watch Half and Half, or even Smart Guy, which my son was watching earlier today, he was like, I'm going to watch Smart Guy. I said, okay. And I haven't seen some of these episodes since they aired, which they aired in the 90s. And I'm like, this is really good writing. These are really great messages for kids. And I'm so grateful that I was a part of something that has a legacy that is valuable, that isn't just, it is entertaining, but at the same time, there's messaging underneath that I can really, even now as an adult and as a mother, that I can stand behind. So that's really nice.
That's awesome, man. It is a credit to the 35 years that you referenced earlier, right? That, behind Sister Essence, for those of you who it will be in the future before you get a chance to see these images for yourself, but Sister Essence is doing this interview from her home office, and behind her there are images of luminaries who have served as an inspiration for her throughout the breadth of her career. And in this particular frame, behind her right shoulder is the legendary EGOT recipient Rita Moreno, and right behind her other shoulder is Lena Horne.
Yeah.
And as Sister Essence says that she has to pinch herself, like grab her cheeks and just really try and digest the surreal nature of her having 3 projects simultaneously airing and being available all day, every day at this very moment. Well, she moves upon the shoulders of those who are literally pictured behind her in this frame as we're having this broadcast. So, without the likes of a Rita Moreno, without the likes of a Lena Horne, without the likes of a Diane Carroll, a Cicely Tyson, that there is no Essence Atkins. And so with you exercising a particular type of humility and awareness by how you approach your craft, it allows those who aspire to do what you're doing, it allows them to earn and learn a sense of how to carry themselves along the way of pursuing such aspirations. So the grace that you have on display now is pretty informative and, again, inspiring, because you're paying homage as you accomplish your goals.
Wow, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, my very first professional acting job was on The Cosby Show. And what I remember so distinctly about that was watching the just regal and legendary Phylicia Rashad. At the time, she was pregnant and they were hiding her pregnancy. So, she was behind the grocery bags and she was like reading a newspaper and, they were hiding her pregnancy because she wasn't supposed to be pregnant on the show. And I watched her move throughout the set. I watched her conduct, not just her professionalism, because she was just luminous and compelling and riveting and charming and royal and powerful and nurturing and just all and just such an aspirational presence. But I watched her, that wasn't just a persona that she was exhibiting through a character, but I watched her move throughout the stage. I watched how she treated people. I watched how she showed up. I watched her preparation. I watched her process and her collaborative spirit and her excellence, and she had so much power in the way she carried herself, but it was never used to make anyone feel small. It was like this perfect balance of like, I know the value that I am, the value that I have, but at the same time, I don't need to use that to push anyone into submission. Like, we can all exist in the same space, and I value you and you value me. I don't need to dominate to have value. And it was so incredible to watch. And I had the honor and the privilege of going to see her in Hidden Passage here in Los Angeles, which, if you saw the play, it's basically Macbeth, but for a female. She was, oh my gosh, she was amazing. I have goosebumps just thinking about it. And I went backstage and I waited for her and I reintroduced myself. And she says, "I know who you are." And I just told her, I said, "I just want to thank you for the example that you gave me without even intentionally doing so." So to your point, there are these legacies that all of us are sprinkling in our interactions with people, and we are being observed by the people around us. And so she is the perfect example for me of how do I want to be remembered, and how do I want to, when I look back on pivotal moments in my life, like, what is the experience? And that was such an incredible experience for me. And it really gave me a beacon. It really gave me something to shoot for. And so the fact that I could even in some small way, be that for someone else, is truly an honor. But I learned from, in my opinion, one of the best. She was my first example, and she set the bar really, really high.
That is, like, I'm relishing in you sharing that. Like, it's so delicious. Like, it's because those moments.
And the full circle moment, that's funny. Sorry to interrupt, but is my very first pilot. It didn't get picked up, but my very first pilot that I did when I was 19 was with her sister. Debbie Allen played my mother.
That is, the thing about pilot season, for those of you around the globe, pilot season is just, the pilot is the term used for, you're going to just try and see if this concept, this show is going to work. So you go out and you shoot an example of it. It might get picked up, it might not. But what Sister Essence is referencing, again, and we appreciate her humility. She is Essence Atkins. This is an intimate conversation with inspiring reflections. Presentation of the Worldwide Lilo Network, broadcasting from 99.3 FM KJBU, rhythmofthecoast.com studios. Sister Essence was referencing something that, again, we appreciate her humility. When she says that she, at the age of 19, back in 1991, she did a pilot. Now, what happens is during pilot season, actors hopefully will get a chance to be a part of a project that might get picked up by a network, order some episodes, and then we as viewers may get to see said project. Right. But during pilot season, more often than not, what happens is that some of the, in terms of concept and ensemble casting, some of the coolest projects happen that we never get to see.
That you never get to see.
Imagine her being 19, coming to LA from New York for the first time, and Debbie Allen is executive producing. Her mama is Dwyane Carroll. Her grandfather is Cab Calloway. Jennifer Lewis is in the same show. Journey Smollett is a
John Witherspoon
baby.
And Journey Smollett was my little sister.
It's just, and these are the types of things that viewers never get a chance to experience.
And you guys never saw it. It was an NBC pilot, and it didn't get picked up.
And for you, this is your first time out of New York. You come to LA, and this is your introduction to, okay, I'm 19 and cool. Yeah. A new lifestyle, a new way of being.
And again, remember, but see, again, like the interesting thing is when I was younger, Fame was a huge movie and a huge TV show. And Debbie Allen played this character in both the TV show and the movie. And there she was, and she was executive producing this pilot, and she was my mother. I was just beside myself, so excited, and thoroughly disappointed when that show didn't get picked up. But yeah, that was the first time I met Jennifer Lewis, who was amazing back then and incredible and undeniable. And and like you said, John Witherspoon and Dwyane Carroll played my grandmother. Dwyane Carroll played my grandmother, I think, 2 more times. She played my grandmother on Half and Half, and I think she played my grandmother on something else as well. I'm trying to remember, but I've worked with her a number of times, and she was an incredible woman. I worked with Leslie Uggams. I've worked with some really, James Earl Jones. I've worked with some amazing, Joe Morton, in my first on-air TV series. So a pilot that actually got picked up, my very first on-air TV series, was a show called Under One Roof for CBS, and Joe Morton played my father. Vanessa Bell Calloway played my mother. James Earl Jones played my grandfather. Merlin Santana played my uncle, but by adoption. I've had a pretty amazing run, and I'm still just beginning.
Yeah, this is only the beginning, man. Those 6 episodes of Under One Roof each one is a classic.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's great writing. It's a great show. I'm super proud of it. Very sad that we didn't have a longer opportunity to tell those stories. But if you were to find it, if you watch the episodes, those stories still resonate. Like, even though we shot them back in the early 90s, you would watch them and go, oh, this is still relevant. Oh, I still feel this. You know, the only thing that's probably outdated are our clothes.
It's all right, though. Yo, everybody was fly for the time, though.
Yeah.
It's all right. Nothing like a fly family under one roof. Well, Queen, before the sun sets on us, you know, we want to circle back around for a couple of things. And this may take us slightly over our allotted time, but it is so for a purpose. One of the things that we want to make sure that we circle back around to is your choice to become an ordained minister and the extent to which your quality of life has been enhanced by you being able to fully live and express that part of your journey. Particularly being someone who has been in the public eye for so long that this isn't exactly something that one just does. In other words, others allowing you to be, well, now wait a minute. What? An ordained minister, that's the woman we saw on Stars, and she had the sex scene with the scandal, and so one isn't always allowed the room and the space in one's real life to do something like become an ordained minister when you happen to do what you do in the business of show. So if you will, share with us, what was the process of you coming to the realization that not only is something that you had a desire to do, but you were going to act upon it? When you make that decision, and then what comes next regarding how you practice becoming ordained?
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, anybody can really, depending upon what state you live in, anyone can get a license to become a minister. And as you mentioned earlier before the music, I wrote the ceremony for and officiated the wedding of Dwyane Wade and Gabrielle Union. No pressure. My first wedding. And not only is it friends of mine, but, you know, there's a substantial amount of eyeballs, you know, public and private, on this wedding. And they came to my then husband and I and said they wanted us to officiate the wedding. And first of all, let's talk about how daunting it is when Dwyane's mother is a pastor of a church. And I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. I don't want your mom to resent me, you know. And he's like, no. They know that we want to do something different. And she wants to be able to sit and enjoy and not, like, she doesn't want the responsibility. And I was like, okay, as long as I have Mama Wade's blessing, I feel better about this. But, you know, we said yes. And then we went about the process of my ex-husband at that point had already gotten his license, because he had officiated another wedding before that. He officiated Alfonso Ribeiro and his wife's wedding, Angela Ribeiro. Hold on a second. You know, this is Zoom. You guys, we're here, Corona. Yes, can I help you, sir? My son. Yes, I'm on air right now. What do you want? As
Sister Essence Atkins is on mommy duty, it's all right.
Yes.
We'll take a brief music break. It's KJBU 99.3 FM, rhythmofthecoast.com studios. It gets no better than this. Little big man Varro needed some mom time.
Hey, he's coming to find out.
Look at my man. So around the globe, you'll have to wait to get a chance to see him. But
why are you making this face?
My man he's posing right now. Around the globe, you'll get to see this on Zoom. You will get to see this. We're conducting the interview, as has been the case during the COVID-19 period, via Zoom. We've had various guests join us on location from different parts of the globe. So Brother Varro said, look, I'm coming in to get some of this, and I'm going to give you my pose, bruh. Give me there it is. He's giving us the killer smile. I said, man, come on now. Don't start. It's too late to be bashful, bruh. You're too handsome.
Okay, so listen, I'll be done shortly. Did you eat
Stick
dinner?
and stay. Don't go anywhere.
You did? Yes. Okay. All right, go.
Man, I think we got some music on deck. You good, bruh? Brother Varro?
I apologize.
There's no need to apologize. Brother Varro is so handsome. He stunned our music engineer in here, and he couldn't find the music. We're shuffling to find what I was like, wow. But he's got that honest though. It's in his family, man. Super mom, super father. Everybody's handsome. What are you gonna do, man? So keep it locked. Don't go anywhere. A quick little music. We're just gonna sprinkle you with a little something.
Sprinkle something. Okay.
And I'm going to see if I can go and get my perm together because little big man Varro was so smooth with it.
Hilarious.
Just so handsome. Oh, man, I got to work on my game. This cat, man. So don't go anywhere. How about some Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak? How about you did. You leave the door open, and then but you got to act right, though, fellas, ladies. Everybody got to act right now. You can't be leaving the door open. And you see what we're doing here now. We were talking about the film Open earlier. You got to mind your P's and Q's. And just because it's available to you, you got to act right for your man to leave the door open for you.
I can't.
For your lady to leave the door open for you, you got to act right. Bruno Mars and Oxnard, California's own Anderson .Paak. Trying to level up, come through, get it right, fellas. You know, if everybody act right, you can leave the door open. Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak, the making of a legendary duo for this century. These cats, and I ain't nobody. Just a cat that's listen to a little something every now and then, and been in the game for a couple 4-5 minutes. This duo is destined to be one of the most successful of this early century, and I'm talking for those of a particular age on a level like duos from decades ago, like Hall and Oates, and some other names that come to mind just in terms of duos. So these two together are going to have some monster hits, and you ain't gonna have to wait on them. You heard it here this go round that they've got some stuff on deck that are bona fide scorchers, and they really dig each other. They have great chemistry. They are both individually musicians, and so when you have two artists that actually enjoy each other's company and they inspire each other and they're able to create whenever they get together and enjoy doing it, that's when the magic happens. That's when the magic is its best. So Leave the Door Open is only the beginning of some extraordinary things to come from this dynamic duo. Bruno Mars from Hawaii and our brother Anderson .Paak, Oxnard/Philadelphia. We see you from the Philadelphia representing the Ox. She is Essence Atkins. She woke up like this, and then her son, the little big man Varro, he blessed us with his presence a few moments ago, and you realize that this runs in the family, because he woke up like that. And you're like, well, what? Because I said that what I was going to do was go and kind of, get my perm together and work on my thing, and then it dawned on me. It was like, well, I didn't wake up like this, so there's no help for me that's going to put me on that. So we just celebrate what love in a family produces. That's what that is. That's why they wake up looking and feeling that way, because all the love in the Essence Atkins household, man. Super parents have phenomenal children. So, Sister Queen, you were sharing with us.
I was talking about marrying Dwyane and Gabrielle, so my ex-husband at the time, we were still married, and they asked us to marry them, and so I realized that we had an extensive conversation with Dwyane and Gabrielle. They said the elements that they wanted. And I wrote this whole ceremony. We got our license, or I got my license, and then I wrote this whole ceremony to fit what it is that they wanted to say, what they wanted to commit to each other. And it was one of the most amazing, beautiful, incredible experiences in terms of creating a celebration of matrimony and marriage that I've ever witnessed. And the fact that I got to write the whole ceremony was just kind of mind-blowing. And then I've done it several times since. And as you say, it's another aspect of my passion. It's funny because even though I'm divorced, I am 100% a believer in love, a believer in the commitments that people make, and families that are formed and fashioned. And I love the celebration and, the pageantry of weddings. So this was a great way. But beyond that, like the spiritual commitments that people make to one another, to honor and respect, and the agreements that are made that day, to be a part of but to be a part of executing that, to find a way to bridge what it is the couple wants to say and declare before the world, and to be able to put that into writing and to officiate it is just such an incredible experience for me. And again, as a believer, there are so many things that I think, so many powerful things that happen when two people are joined together and they walk together and they form an agreement to go through this thing called life under the umbrella of love, under the umbrella of respect, under the umbrella of trust. I think that every dream that we have as a singular individual really does get multiplied, and the potential of miracles just overflows exponentially when we partner with the right person. So it is my great pleasure to be able to do that for people. And I hope I get to do some more weddings, because they're quite fun. And I was actually supposed to do a wedding last year for one of my closest friends. So I have a godson who's 20, my oldest godson, and his dad was a PA on Smart Guy, and we have remained friends. And I was actually in the room when my godson was born. I was his mom's birth coach. I cut his umbilical cord when he was born with his dad, and he's divorced as well, and he has a fiance, and they were supposed to get married in April of last year, but obviously because of the pandemic that has been pushed. But I was supposed to officiate their wedding as well. So being an ordained minister, again, is something that basically anybody can do that has an internet connection. But for me, it really is about coming into agreement and helping to guide a couple that is deciding to pledge their love together, to stay together until one of them departs from the earth, and possibly even beyond that. That is such a joy and a blessing in a different way. In the same way that the school is a joy and a blessing. I think that we must diversify. We must have balance. We cannot let our entire identity be about our chosen careers or our bank account or about any one thing, or even about our last name, like even in a marriage. Like, we really need to make sure that we are living a full life and cultivating things that bring us joy, that aren't necessarily about any kind of comparison to anyone else. And so for me, I have found these things. I found them in the school. I have found them in helping my friends declare their love and commitment to one another before friends and family, and writing the words that help them do that. I have found so many ways to be joyful beyond just my career, beyond just being a mother. All of these things work kind of as a full amalgam of things that bring me joy and happiness and peace. So I'm so grateful for diversity. How about that?
Sounds like living, man, to me.
Yeah.
You're living a full life,
Yeah.
And enjoying the process of doing so. And I think, a little big man Varro is, he's on the receiving end of all of that love and fullness. And he, I think rightfully so, he's just going to feel natural in emulating the way in which, you were doing that. So, that's the ultimate, when one as a child gets to experience that firsthand. And it's one thing to have the aspiration. It's another thing to see it in motion, like where our loved ones and elders and parents and extended family members provide those examples for us, and we don't have to go looking for it, and we have some idea of what it looks and feels like that, so man, it's just really exciting and uplifting to consider what is he gonna do with all of that good stuff, he's got a
I'm excited for him. I'm excited for all the kids I'm connected to, like when I think about them reflecting on this time, yes, there will definitely be moments of where they'll have a realization of all that they were exposed to and had to navigate through. But at the same time, like you said, the example that they had of these 7 families collectively coming together, pooling resources and finding a way, to execute and give them a safe space to thrive in and to flourish in. I hope that they remember fondly the power of community, because, again, the saying is true that it does take a village, and we created one, and it's life-changing for all of us, and it has blessed all of us, and it has been a saving grace. It's so funny because occasionally one of the parents will say, "Are they too loud? Like, is it weird having?" And I'm like, no, especially now with, isolation and really sticking to being at home, staying safe at home, hearing them in the backyard playing. It's just given me such a sense of peace and purpose. I'm so grateful that I said yes. I'm so grateful that I heard the instruction and I was obedient to the instruction, because it has blessed me. Yes, I know that they're in school and they're safe and they get to play together and have some semblance of normalcy, and the parents feel safe about them being here. But beyond that, what it has done for me to have 5 days a week, to know even in my isolation or moments of anxiety or depression or sadness or whatever those things that we've all gone through in this year, especially in a heightened way, like it just grounds me in a way that I'm so grateful just hearing them play outside. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the math on this. To call you an actress and then put a period at the end. So what does she do? And then you say actress, and that's blasphemous. So what we've learned is that what we need to start with is superwoman, and then in parentheses to put the 19 other things that accurately describe who and what you really are and what you do and how you live. So just know that's in the works, and now it's going to be rough to get all that on a t-shirt, but
yeah.
Such is the price of living a full life.
Yeah.
Man, congratulations on doing everything that you're doing the way that you're doing it, because it is, I think, instructive for others who want to live in a different way, in a healthier way. And so some of what you have been willing to share this go round on Intimate Conversations, Inspiring Reflections is something that it provides a great deal of hope, allowing others to get a sense of, there are quite a few things that are possible. We just have to work with ourselves a little more in certain ways, perhaps, and then be willing to communicate with others who may be able to take a few moments and work with us in tandem about the things that we consider to be priorities. And so what your community has done by way of creating a school that is going to really be the elementary school for the next couple of years for this group of 9 students, man, in your backyard. I'm so excited that I'm trying to send my application to Ms. Parmalee to see if there is like if I bring my own desk and my own hazmat suit, could I at least sit in the back and learn a little something along the way? So we'll work on that. We'll work on that offline there. We'll work on that. So, dig it. We want to make sure that we cover some business items with you. We know that the second season of First Wives Club is forthcoming. Yes. You're starring alongside Jill Scott. And the cast is just so funny. Michelle Buteau she's just won. She's awesome. Yeah, she's awesome. And that comedy special is amazing. And she's lovely. I really enjoyed working with her. Yeah, First Wives Club was awesome. So I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to work on that show. Yeah, so BET Plus is the location. So everybody just sit tight, wait, but summer. We're making sure that you know that it's forthcoming. Yeah. And now that you know that Sister Essence is going to be gracing season 2, along with some other surprises, including Gary Dourdan. Ladies, calm down, ladies. Calm down. No need to get hot and bothered yet, but it is forthcoming. Worth the wait. First Wives Club season 2 is going to be a lot of fun. Sister E, Essence Says, are those still our social media handles? Twitter, social Instagram? Media handles on both Twitter and Instagram. Essence Says, yes. Okay, so Essence Says, and there's a little bit of pressure here. I'd full disclosure, because I've told you, I know that Ms. Parmalee is paying attention to my lack of subject-verb agreement, and I'm challenged with the spelling too. A brother never won any spelling bees. I'm just saying what it is, and the fact that you're laughing is not it's not helping my confidence. ESSENCESAYS. Essence Says. Okay, give me a second now. Be patient. And what I'm going to do is I'm not looking at you, so don't you, because you throw my concentration off. ESSENCESAYS. Yes. Huh? Yes, on Instagram and Twitter? Yes. We got it right. I spelled it correct. ESSENCESAYS. Yes, sir. Come on, man. Look, tell Miss Parmalee, save me a spot in the back of the class. I'm going to get my hazmat suit on. This ain't no game. All right. So let's go through the list, y'all. Essence Atkins, right? Intimate Conversations, Inspiring Reflections this go round. We just leveled up around the world. We just went to another level, right? KJBU 99.3 FM, rhythmofthecoast.com studios, the broadcast location this go round, right? Presentation of the worldwide Lilo Network. So what we have is Sister Essence Atkins just blessed these airwaves, and actress, superwoman, producer, director, ordained minister, principal mama, according to little big man Varro, and a do-it-all. She can do it all, man. So, Queen, we can't thank you enough. Just know how much we celebrate you and all of the luminaries that you have behind you on your office wall there. You are next. That is you. So continue to live the way that you answered that question when you were 7/8 years old, man. Can you take yourself? You continue to live a life where the answer unequivocally is yes. And you make us all better by continuing to do so. So continue to be you, do you. And I just am going to wait on my application to be answered because Ms. Parmalee, I'm just that I can save me a seat in the back. I won't disrupt class. I promise.
That's a lie. That's a lie. He will be very disruptive.
You're right. You're right. I was going to say.
Thank you for having me. I've been, this has been a blessing. I'm so appreciative of the time and the audience and the support over the years, not just of you, but also of your community and your listeners. So you guys continue to please stay safe, wear your mask, and just be considerate of others. Just be kind. Everybody is battling something that they don't talk about or that very few people are aware of. So just continue to sow kindness because that is far more contagious than any virus.
Essence Atkins, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together around the globe. Intimate conversations, inspiring reflections this go round. Quite simply, grace personified. Thank you, sweetheart. See you soon. Have a great one.
Right. Thank you so much.
Keep it locked right here. Music on the way. Rhythmofthecoast.com, KJBU 99.3 FM. This has been a presentation of the Worldwide Lilo Network. If it's an intimate conversation with inspiring reflections, you're in the right place because you'll be better for it. We'll see you next go-round.